Hi, my name is Annie. If you're new to my channel, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how I weave in my yarn ends as I go. This is a technique that I came up with myself. I haven't seen anybody else do it quite the same way. This technique is going to work for most granny squares. I'm going to be using this daisy granny square today to show you how I do it. By the way, you can find a tutorial for this square on my channel as well. But really it works for many different granny square designs. So if you're working on a traditional granny square in multiple colors, it would work for that. It would work for the sunburst granny square and many others. A couple of things. First of all, we are going to be weaving in the ends as we go. So once you finish your granny square, you're only going to have the initial yarn end here and then the very last yarn end of the last round. Everything else we take care of as we go. However, that doesn't mean that they just magically disappear. We do need to work a little bit during the granny square to take care of them. Another thing to mention about this technique is that I weave in the ends with this technique into two different directions. I know some people like to do 3 directions, some people maybe do 1, but just something to know about this technique. The ends get woven into 2 different directions with this technique. So let's get started. So I'm going to be showing you with this square or this daisy. If I turn my work around, I've already taken care of the ends of the previous round. So I'm going to be showing you with this round how to do it. It's the exact same technique for every round. So here is my yarn end. I have fastened off. It's right here. And what I do is I turn my work around. This is the back side. You can tell it by this yarn end here. And I'm going to go ahead and insert my hook into the next stitch next to this yarn end. And I'm going to be inserting it through this back loop here. So I'll show you, each stitch has 2 loops. The back loop, that's closer to the back side, and the front loop, that's closer to the front side. So I insert it kind of there in the middle of those 2 loops. And then I grab this yarn and I just pull it through that back loop there. So insert the hook and pull the yarn through. Just like that. Super easy. Insert the hook in the middle of the back loop and the front loop, and then you pull it through this back loop. I like to pull my work here a little bit to make sure that I'm not bunching up this work like that with this yarn end. So you can pull it just to make sure that it's not pulling your work too tight. So I like to attach my new color with a slip knot. So I just wrap that yarn around my finger. I take it off. And I pull a loop through that initial loop. Then just pull it tight. And now technically for this granny square, I could start the next round in any of these spaces between the petals. But because I want to keep weaving this yarn end in, I'm gonna go ahead and attach my yarn into this very same space where this yarn end ends. Or then I could just go ahead and insert or attach the yarn into the space before this yarn ends. So here I actually could also go into this space here. But since it ends right here, that's where I'm going to be attaching the yarn. I like to pull that knot tight before I keep going. And then I'm going to start my next round, as I usually would. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be holding this white yarn end together with my work as I go, so that it disappears inside my work. So now if I turn my work around, I can see that that yarn, white yarn, is disappearing in there. So I'm just going to keep holding it here together with the work as I go. And now pretty early on here, after the first corner or the first cluster stitches, I like to stop and I turn my work around again. Because now I also want to take care of this new beige yarn end. And I do the exact same thing we did before. So I go here in the middle of those two loops, and I keep pulling it through these back loops. Again, pulling my work so it doesn't get too tight. Now that's a pretty good distance. And then I want to make sure that if I fold this yarn end like that, this remaining end is shorter than the distance that I have from here to this point. Because what I'm going to do is I keep working around my square, holding this white yarn end as I go. It's going to end here at some point. And then when I get to this point where I can see my beige yarn end, I'm just going to be holding this yarn end together with my work as I go, and it also disappears inside the square. So now I'm at the end of my round. So I'm just going to close this round. And now if I turn my work around, as you can see, no yarn ends. So maybe it's just a little bit, a very short one here that I can just cut off. And now if you wanted to, you could change color here and do the exact same thing we did before. So just kind of pull the yarn end on the back side through the back loops for a little bit and attach the new yarn. For mine, I'm going to be adding another round in the same color. So I'm just going to keep going and work my next round in the same color without cutting the yarn. But if you were to change your color, you would do it the exact same way we did on the previous round. So I have just closed my last round here. So just gonna go ahead and chain one and cut my yarn, leaving just a couple of inches here. So now, if I turn my work around, the only yarn ends that I can see are this one here, the last one that I just cut, and this one here, which is my initial yarn end. So I only need to weave in those two ends with a yarn needle. All the other ends we took care of as we went. So with these yarn ends, I like to do the same thing I do with all the other ones and weave them into 2 different directions. Again, this is a personal preference. You might have a different preference, but I'll just show you how I do this part. So usually to make this easy, I just kind of work my way here to this round here. And once I'm here at the start, I'll just weave it in one way. Well, I also pull my work here because I don't want this yarn to bunch up my square. So I go one way, and then I usually anchor this yarn somewhere there, and then I go back the exact same way. When you're using a yarn needle to weave in the ends, you do want to make sure you can just turn your work around and see if you can see your needle here on the right side. Because if you can see your needle, that also means that your yarn end that you're trying to weave in is going to be making some weird appearances on the right side. So you want to make sure that you cannot see the needle there, like that. And then I just pull it through. And pull again. It disappeared there. And then I only have this last one. Actually, what I do when I start my granny square, I hold this yarn end together with this first round. So this has already been woven into one direction here, and I can see the yarn end comes out of there. So it's gone this way. So I'll just anchor it here and I weave it into the other direction. If you have not done that, it's really not a big deal. You can just simply weave it into 2 different directions, or if you want to do more, you can also do that. Again, making sure needle doesn't show there. And pull my work. You can pull it pretty hard and it's going to be okay. If I had left a longer end here, I could just easily get it into the needle and I wouldn't have to put it back in all the time. But since that's a little short, I just keep putting it back in the needle. It's okay. So there it is. All the ends have been taken care of. I'm just going to go ahead and cut these remaining ones. Here, as you can see, this is one of the yarn ends that I weaved in as I went. So if there's just a little bit left, you can just go ahead and cut those carefully. So this is how I weave in my yarn ends as I go. As I said in the beginning, it's definitely not magic. They don't just magically disappear in there, but it does make it a lot easier at the end when you don't have all the ends to weave in. So I really like this technique. I hope you liked it too. Please leave me a comment, like this video, and make sure that you also subscribe to my channel if you like this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.